So for the windows and doors on this project, I created some shapes using Microsoft Word, and I've saved that as a PDF, and it's available up in the Dropbox location if you'd like to use the same thing that I used. Now I printed it out on cardstock weight paper, and I also used the best setting on my inkjet printer so that I would get a nice coverage of ink. Now, if you don't care for these windows, but you want to have windows, all of these are 3/8 of an inch wide, and then depending on the tower, there's some that are 3/4 of an inch tall, some that are 7/8, and some that are 1 inch. And I'm also going to reuse some of the 1 inch ones down here at the bottom as doors, just by cutting off the bottom so that we don't have that little trim piece at the bottom. Now also I've decided I want to have a little thickness to these windows and doors, so I'm going to attach this to a piece of lightweight chipboard and then cut out my shapes after I do that. That's not necessary, of course, but it's just excuse me, something that I'm choosing to do. And I'm also, when I put this on the chipboard, I'll make sure that it's curving this way, because some of these windows will go on curved surfaces. We won't really curve them too much, but just so that we're not working against the curve. So I'll get that done and prepare all of my little windows to have them available to use. So here I have 3 little dishes with my different sizes of windows. After I cut them out, I used my marker to blacken the edges on each one. So now my windows are ready to go. As part of the templates, there's a page that has these funny looking notched templates. And each one of these helps us to space our windows. So just cut these out exactly, and you can see I've already cut mine over here. Now these openings are slightly larger than 3/8 of an inch because the windows are just slightly larger than 3/8 of an inch here. So that's why they're sized that way. So I'm going to start with my back corner towers, and first thing I want to do is check to see where's the top. So here are my tops because I want the windows to go near the top. On these towers, all 4 sides get windows. So the way we do this is we take some temporary adhesive, and these templates have been sized so they should fit exactly on the side of that wall there. So just like that. And then we're going to use 1 inch windows on the back corner towers. So these little notches help us get them aligned to the proper height. And you'll see that some of these templates have different heights above the notches, and that's because some of the roofs just come down a little bit further than other roofs. You'll want to use a ruler or something to make sure you keep them straight, because these notches just are basically helping with the horizontal spacing and are not really intended to help you keep things straight. So you can just take like your little ruler or something like that and use that to line it up. Now I put some score tape before I cut these all out, so I can just remove my backing, and I'll just put it down lightly to begin with, just in case I need to make any adjustments. And I'll do the same for this one on this side. Also, I forgot to mention that on these printed windows there's some shading on the inside, so you want to make sure that you keep that shading all oriented the same way. I'm going to have mine towards the upper right corner. So now I'm just going to take this template off and check that my windows are where I want them, And when they're exactly where I want them, I'll go ahead and give them a burnish down. And then I'll just repeat that process for the other 3 sides on this back corner tower, and then on this top of the second back corner tower. So here are the windows installed on all 4 sides of the back corner towers. Next we'll work on both the courtyard towers and the turrets because they both use the same template, and we'll follow that same plan, put it in place with some temporary adhesive, and put our windows in place. The only difference is that for these 2 components we will use the 3/4 inch windows. So the 3/4 inch windows are going to go on both the courtyard towers and the turrets. So I'll get those installed and then I'll be back. So here are the courtyard towers and the turrets with their windows installed. Next we'll work on the tall tower. Now the tall tower has 2 templates, one that fits on the wider side and then a second one that fits on the narrower side. And the wider side one has 3 windows. The smaller one just has 2. So I'll go ahead and get those windows installed. So here is the tall tower with its windows installed. So now we're ready to start working on our round towers, and we'll start with the second level tower, and it actually reuses the same template that we used on the wide side of the tall tower. You can see up here on the top it says second level round. And when we put this in place, we want to find the seam of the decorative paper and try to center this opposite it. It's not critical that it's exactly right, but just somewhere close to being opposite that seam. And then we use 3 windows here, and we're going to use the 7/8 inch windows for this tower. So I'll go ahead and get those installed. And before I remove the score tape backing from these, I'm just using the side of my finger and giving these a slight curve. Just that'll help them stay adhered to that curved surface a little bit better. So I did that for all 3 of my windows. And here are the 3 windows on the second level tower. Now for the center wall towers, we're going to reuse the template from the narrower side of the tall tower. It also says center wall on it. And again, I'll find my seam and I'll center this across from that seam. Watch your directional paper, and then I'm going to use 3/4 inch windows on these 2 towers, and again I will curve them slightly on my finger before I remove their score tape backing and get those installed. So here are the 2 center wall towers. And then we have our 2 front corner towers. Now again, we want to put the template directly across from the seam. It's a little hard to judge that when it's so wide across here, So I'm just finding that seam and drawing a line straight to the center and then continuing that line across, and that'll give me a good guideline to line up the center of my template with that guideline. And then I'll use the 7/8 inch windows on these two front corner towers. So here are the front corner towers with their 4 windows on each one. And finally, let's look at this large round tower. Now, I debated about putting windows on this, and I finally decided I would. But you can, as with anything, it's always your choice. So there is a template in there for the large round tower, and we're going to have 2 sets of windows. And the first set, you line up the left edge of that template and the top edge, and that's where these first 2 windows go. And so I'm going to use 1-inch windows here. I'm going to curve them on my finger like I've done for the other towers, and probably leave this one flat because it's pretty flat right here, and then put these 2 windows in, and then I'll be back. So I have those 2 windows in. I just have them in lightly for now. And I'll remove this template. And then to see where I want to put the other 2, I'm going to take my ruler and line up the 1.5 inch mark. This is a 2-inch ruler. I'm going to line it up at 1.5 inches on the outside of this back wall here, and draw a line. This is an erasable pen that I have right here. Otherwise you could use pencil so you don't have a permanent mark there. So I have a little tick mark there, and I'm going to use that tick mark to center my template, and then I'll put the other 2 windows in. I'm not going to put any windows here in the front, I've decided, but again, you could choose to put some there if you wanted to. So here are the windows on my large round tower, and this is the reason I'm not putting any in the front here, because this tower is going to come in right here, and then pretty much will block if there was any windows right there. So, but again, that's up to you if you want to add some in there. So that's the windows.